Welcome back to Nurse's Corner. Today we have a doctor that doesn't belong in pediatrics. Let's begin. Dr. Aaron Cole's smile could calm any parent in the pediatric wing of St. Augustine Hospital. He was the kind of doctor who crouched to eye level with frightened kids and always knew a joke that made them giggle through the tears. The parents loved him for that. Administration loved him because satisfied families meant donations. But behind the closed door of exam room 4, that smile didn't quite reach his eyes anymore. Nurse Kayla Moreno noticed it first. She'd worked under plenty of doctors in her 6 years on pediatrics, some kind, some arrogant, but Dr. Cole had always landed somewhere in between, brisk but fair, confident without cruelty. Lately, though, the man moved differently. He was distracted, flinched when she asked simple questions, and his orders came late, sometimes contradicting themselves. It started with missing doses. Pain meds signed out but never administered. Antibiotics recorded for the wrong patients. Kayla double-checked every chart before daring to ask. Dr. Cole, you ordered cefazolin for Thompson, right? He didn't look up. Of course I did. Now please, stop hovering. She stepped back, throat tightening. He used to thank her for catching errors. Now his tone was edged with irritation. Over the next week, Kayla's unease grew. Parents whispered about odd bills, charges for drugs their kids never received. One mother cornered her near the break room. Why would my insurance say my son got in 4 infusions every night? He only had oral meds. Kayla promised to look into it, her stomach twisting. She spent lunch break in the med supply closet, scanning barcode logs. The timestamps didn't make sense. Dozens of entries under Dr. Cole's name happened long after he'd supposedly clocked out. By Thursday, she couldn't ignore it. She went to Chief Nurse Alvarez. Something's wrong with Cole's charts. Alvarez sighed. You sure? He's one of our best. Double-booked half the time. I'm sure. Kayla laid the printouts down. Either he's falsifying or someone's using his login. The older woman rubbed her temples. All right. I'll take it upstairs quietly. But word didn't travel quietly for long in a hospital. By the next shift, Cole's charm seemed turned up to full volume, extra smiles, extra jokes, every movement practiced. Kayla realized he'd heard. He confronted her 2 nights later. She was checking vitals on a toddler when he appeared in the doorway, smile tight. Can we talk? She followed him to the supply hallway. His voice stayed calm, but his eyes were cold. You've been digging in my work. I was verifying dosages. It's protocol. Protocol. He stepped closer. Or paranoia? Kayla's back hit the cabinet. I'm trying to keep patients safe. Cole exhaled through his nose, forcing another smile. I appreciate diligence, but spreading rumors harms everyone. Especially you. He turned away, and for an instant she saw the mask slip, his jaw clenched so hard the muscle jumped. That night she couldn't shake the image. The kids' laughter down the hall sounded distant, fragile. She pulled every chart she could access, copying data onto a flash drive. If she was wrong, she'd apologize. If she was right, she needed proof. He confronted her 2 nights later. She was checking vitals on a toddler when he appeared in the doorway, smile tight. Can we talk? She followed him to the supply hallway. His voice stayed calm, but his eyes were cold. You've been digging in my work. I was verifying dosages. It's protocol. Protocol. He stepped closer. Or paranoia? Kayla's back hit the cabinet. I'm trying to keep patients safe. Cole exhaled through his nose, forcing another smile. I appreciate diligence, but spreading rumors harms everyone. Especially you. He turned away, and for an instant she saw the mask slip, his jaw clenched so hard the muscle jumped. That night she couldn't shake the image. The kids' laughter down the hall sounded distant, fragile. She pulled every chart she could access, copying data onto a flash drive. If she was wrong, she'd apologize. If she was right, she needed proof. 2 days later, the proof screamed at her in black ink. Inventory logs showed entire cases of children's narcotics missing. The pharmacy system listed them as expired, discarded, all signed by Cole. But the disposal signatures were forged. She recognized the fake initials. Kayla went to Alvarez again. Look at this. The chief nurse's eyes widened. God help us. I already called compliance. They're sending officers. Hospital security? No. Police. That afternoon felt endless. Cole carried on as if nothing was wrong, making rounds, smiling at parents, complimenting staff. To anyone else, he looked like the perfect pediatrician. But Kayla saw the tremor in his hand when he signed charts and the sweat along his collar despite the air conditioning. At 4 p.m., an 8-year-old named Riley came in with severe asthma. Cole took over immediately. Let's stabilize him. 20 milligrams albuterol, he ordered. Kayla's eyes flicked to the chart. 10 milligrams was standard. Doctor, that's 2. He snapped, do as you're told. Riley wheezed, eyes wide with fear. Kayla grabbed a second nurse. Half dose only. They obeyed her, and Riley steadied within minutes. Cole realized what she'd done. His stare burned holes through her as he left the room. Kayla's pulse hammered. Within the hour, security informed her the police were on their way. She stayed near the station, pretending to chart but watching every move he made. He disappeared into his office. 15 minutes later, the intercom buzzed overhead, someone paging him urgently. He didn't respond. Kayla stood. I'm checking his office. She pushed the door open. He sat behind the desk, stacks of folders half-stuffed into a bag. When he saw her, his shoulders stiffened. Going somewhere? She asked. He smiled thinly. Paperwork. You wouldn't understand. I understand theft. His expression flickered. You think you're saving the world? You're ending your career. The hallway filled with the echo of approaching footsteps. 2 uniformed officers appeared in the doorway, flanked by Alvarez and the hospital's administrator. Dr. Cole, one officer said evenly, please stand. You're being detained for questioning regarding hospital theft and falsified medical records. Cole laughed softly, shaking his head. This is insane. Stand up, sir. He rose slowly, hands trembling. Do you have any idea how many lives I've saved here? We're not here about lives you saved, the officer replied. Hands behind your back. Parents in the corridor stopped talking. Children's cartoons still played faintly from patient rooms, out of sync with the silence now spreading through the ward. Cole's smile faltered for the first time. As the cuffs locked, his jaw quivered. Kayla watched him led past the nurse's station. One of the kids waved from a bed, too young to understand. Bye, Dr. Cole. He didn't answer. When the door shut behind him, the air changed. Alvarez exhaled shakily. Get back to your stations, people. Kayla sank into her chair, staring at the half-finished chart on her screen. Outside, the sirens faded into distance. She felt no triumph, only exhaustion. The children still needed meds, still needed care. Work resumed because it had to. That night, as she checked Riley's vitals, the boy asked, Is the doctor coming back? Kayla smiled softly. No, sweetheart. But you're safe now. Riley nodded, satisfied, already drifting toward sleep. Kayla pulled the blanket up to his chin, then stepped into the hallway. The corridor lights hummed overhead, bright and steady. She took one long breath, straightened her badge, and walked back to work. For 2 days, the pediatric wing felt quieter than usual. Even the kids seemed to sense it, that strange emptiness left behind after something loud breaks and stops suddenly. Dr. Aaron Cole's name was no longer on the schedule, but his shadow lingered. Parents asked polite questions. Reporters called the front desk. And everyone kept pretending it was just another week. Nurse Kayla Moreno didn't have the luxury of pretending. She'd been pulled into 3 interviews by compliance officers and spent hours writing statements that blurred together. The pharmacy manager confirmed what she'd feared: thousands of dollars in pediatric narcotics had vanished. He'd been selling them through intermediaries, hiding the theft under false prescriptions and double entries. For months. Chief Nurse Alvarez stopped by her desk that morning. You did the right thing, she said quietly. Kayla didn't look up from the chart. I feel like I burned the floor under my own feet. Maybe. But you stopped him before someone got hurt. Kayla wanted to believe that, but she kept remembering Riley's small face when Cole barked at her. The child's fear had been real. So had hers. The following week, things began to settle, or at least appear to. New doctors rotated in. Parents grew comfortable again. But Kayla noticed that every time a child laughed too loud, half the nurses glanced at the empty doorway of Cole's office. Ghosts didn't need to haunt to be felt. One afternoon, as she restocked gauze, she heard raised voices down the hall. The administrator, Mr. Riley, was talking to a man in a dark suit. "We've already given full cooperation," Riley said. "And I need more details for the district report," the man replied sharply. Cole wasn't operating alone. Someone signed off on his orders. Kayla's chest tightened. She waited until they passed before slipping out. The thought of another name surfacing, someone still working alongside her, made her stomach churn. That night, she checked her locker. A small envelope sat inside, no label. She unfolded the note. "You should have kept quiet." He wasn't the only one. Her hands shook so hard she dropped it. By morning, security had reviewed footage. The cameras in the locker hall had been offline between shifts. Coincidence, they said. Alvarez didn't think so. "You go straight home after work," she told Kayla. "No late shifts. I'll take your nights." Kayla nodded, but barely heard her. The trust that had glued the ward together was unraveling, thread by thread. Everyone looked over their shoulders now. Late that evening, as the sun dropped behind the West Wing windows, Kayla finished checking vitals on a sleeping infant. The baby's breathing was steady, the faint beep of the monitor like a heartbeat for the room. She turned to leave and froze. Aaron Cole stood at the end of the hallway. His hair was messy, lab coat gone, street clothes wrinkled. But the smile was still there. "You miss me." Kayla's blood went cold. "You're not supposed to be here. Relax. Just needed to grab something from my office." He stepped forward. "They took everything, you know. My job, my reputation, my family. You did that." She backed up toward the nurse's station. "Security's coming," she warned. He laughed under his breath. "You think they scare me? They can't take what's already gone." He moved closer, voice low now, almost pleading. "You know I wasn't the only one falsifying charts. Alvarez covered for me half the time." "That's a lie." "Is it? You think she didn't notice missing meds for months?" A door down the hall opened. A father carrying a sleepy toddler stepped out. Cole turned his head sharply, the warmth in his face vanishing. "Get back in your room," he ordered. The man hesitated, then obeyed, frightened by something in his tone. Kayla pressed the security button under the counter. Cole noticed the movement and sighed. "Always by the book," he murmured. "That's how people like you survive." Footsteps thundered from around the corner. 2 police officers appeared, same as before, calm, direct, uniforms crisp. One of them Kayla recognized. "Dr. Cole," the taller officer said, "you're violating a restraining order." "Hands where I can see them." Cole didn't move. "You can't keep me away from my patients." "You don't have patients anymore," the officer replied. "Turn around." The sound of kids crying down the hall mixed with the echo of boots on tile. Alvarez came running, breathless. How did he even get inside? Cole's voice rose, desperate now. "They needed me. You all needed me." His eyes darted between them, wild, unmoored. "You think this place runs without me? You'll see how fast it falls apart." "Sir, that's enough." The officers stepped in, each taking an arm. Cole struggled once, then sagged as the cuffs clicked into place. His face crumpled into something almost childlike, confusion, maybe regret. Parents shielded their kids' eyes as the officers walked him past the waiting area. Cameras flashed from someone's phone before security barked at them to stop. The door hissed open, cold air rushing in, and then he was gone again, this time for good. For a long minute no one spoke. Then Alvarez said, softly but firmly, "Back to work." The staff dispersed like they were waking from a bad dream. Kayla stood alone at the nurse's station, looking at the space where he'd been. His office door hung open, lights spilling out. On his desk lay a single chart, Riley's, untouched since that day. She picked it up, flipped through the pages, and saw his handwriting, discharged, healthy. She closed the folder gently. Maybe the words had been true once. Outside, the sirens faded into the distance again. Kayla finally exhaled, the sound shaky in her throat. A janitor passed with a mop bucket, glancing toward her. Crazy day, huh? She nodded faintly. The kind we don't talk about later. He gave her a sympathetic smile and kept moving. Kayla went back to her rounds. Riley was awake, playing with a plastic dinosaur. Miss Kayla, is the loud man gone? She smiled for real this time. Yeah, he won't be back. Good, he said simply, handing her the toy. You can keep Rex. He's brave. She took it carefully, setting it beside the monitor. Thanks, buddy. When she left the room, she realized her hands were steady again. Later that night, she walked out to the employee lot. The sky was pale gray, the air smelling faintly of rain. Across the street, the red and blue lights had vanished, leaving the hospital bathed in quiet. Kayla sat in her car and let herself feel tired for the first time. Not sad, not scared, just tired. She thought about how easy it was to believe in someone who smiled the right way, how hard it was to see past it until too late. Inside her pocket, the note from her locker still sat folded. She took it out, looked at the shaky handwriting one last time, and tore it in half. The pieces fluttered to the floor mat. Somewhere upstairs, children were still laughing, nurses still working, alarms still chiming. The hospital didn't stop for anyone. But for the first time in weeks, she believed the ward could stand on its own. Kayla started the car, headlights washing over the empty road ahead, and drove home toward the slow edge of morning.